Hey, what's up, guys? This is MugenLord here, and as I promised, I wanted to bring a video review of the Diofield Chronicles to you guys. So before we step into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button because it definitely helps me out here on the channel, and hit that bell to be notified for more JRPG and fighting game news here on this channel. So let us dive into it. Now, Diofield Chronicles, I decided to go pick this game up for the Xbox Series X. I wanted to show my support for the console when it comes to getting JRPGs on the hardware. So what is Diofield Chronicles? I guess we can start with the presentation. Now, Diofield Chronicles is, of course, a RPG, but not just an RPG. It's a strategy, real-time strategy RPG, which we'll get into once we get into the gameplay. But as far as this presentation is concerned, I love the art direction they decided to go with. I remember when it was first revealed during a trailer, during the state of play, the main thing that really popped out to me was the art style, because it has this ink type of art style, or I guess you could say on the outlines of the characters. And to me, the character designs really stand out from traditional JRPG main protagonists, and that's what really caught me by surprise, or just caught me off guard, and it just intrigued me and pulled me right in, because I wanted to see, you know, where this game is going to go based on the characters and how well it's presented to itself. Voice acting, definitely, in my personal opinion, is phenomenal. The English dub is really good, and English dub is getting better and better. I just don't know why people just can't stand it the moment they hear just English voice acting. But the English voice acting in this game is definitely top notch. I can't even see myself wanting to hear it in Japanese. I think they've done a good job with the voice direction that they wanted to take these characters, and how they embody the characters, which I think is pretty cool.
Creatures, wyverns, who nimbly attack from above.
I believe that is a job for your bow and arrows, Iska. The blue foxes are counting on you, now more than ever.
Not a thought that brings me joy.
Well, the way I see it, the war looks bleak. Especially if we're being called up to fight.
Look at it this way. This is a rare opportunity to show what we can do.
You have such a yearning for war. I can't comprehend it.
Enough, Iska. We're to make for Eastfield at once.
And also, the story is told within a historian type of narrative. Now, some people may be turned off by that. People rather have a story told through cutscenes and many other things like that. But this is a pretty much a political type of war type of story. So you have a historian like type figure that's actually narrating everything as it progresses, as you progress through the game. Now, as far as story is concerned, because we're going to talk about the story, I'm going to summarize it for you guys. All I gotta say is, like, man, 2022 has been crazy when it comes to JRPGs and stories that's just took me by surprise. This story, to me, in my opinion, is really good, but I'm not going to go into deep details. I won't spoil it here. In fact, I'm making a separate video of Diofield Chronicles because I want to do an overview, and I want to talk about how the story really got me at the end. It really did, and I wanted to express that and hopefully allow you guys to be able to have some type of interest, or pique your interest and actually want to look into it for yourself. But as far as the story is concerned, there's two warring factions on a separate continent. They're going back and forth for the power of this resource called Jade. Jade is the powerful resource in this world, where they can use Jade to pretty much use it to create high-tech technology, sorcery, experiments, all kinds of things, and they're fighting for this resource. Now, the thing is, the two nations that are fighting one another begin to run low on this resource known as Jade. So they stop for a minute and decide to set their eyes on across to the continent across from them, or an island across from them, called Diofield. Diofield is pretty much an island or a continent to itself, separate from the continent is across from them. And the thing about Diofield has its own rich lore and history behind, you know, this land and how it was brought about. Now, what makes Diofield special is the fact is that it has an overabundance, it's bountiful amount of jade that's located in Diofield. So these two factions decide to form an alliance, and they say, hey, we're gonna go over there and we're going to invade Diofield. Now, the problem is in Diofield also has its own political drama or political friction that's going on as far as the monarch is concerned, as far as the kingship, is because one of the princes who also has the birthmark imbued of jade that's in his that's supposed to be on his hand, that he's supposed to be the one that's supposed to be the next king in line, but unfortunately he got assassinated, and this prince died in front of one of the main characters named Adrius, who you actually take control over. He's actually what they call them, the retainer, or the person, the advisor that watches over the royalty, which was the prince, and the prince ends up dying. So the game fast forwards to, you know, present time, to where Adrius, his friend Frederick, and his other friend had pretty much became mercenaries, taking on jobs, and they end up stumbling upon a woman named Lorraine, who's an advisor for the Duke and the rest of the nobles within Diofield, and they wind up working their way in, and they end up working for the Duke himself, and they end up climbing up the ranks and start forming their own group called the Blue Foxes. Now, I won't go through the rest of the details, because then a conspiracy starts to happen within Diofield itself, and as that unfolds, the story just really took me away. You know, first it started off kind of slow, I will admit that, because I don't know where the story is going, but once it starts to pick up, man, you really start saying like, wow, this is really, really, really good. So I'm gonna leave it at that when it comes to the story, but all I'll say is the characters are really, really well written, well developed. Characters like Adrius, who's the main character, he's very secretive, and that's the character I really want to talk about in a separate video, because I can't really go into too much details without having spoilers all over the place. And then you have his friend Frederick, his right hand man, another one I really love. He's very hot-headed, but he's still a guy that you need to have in your corner when things go down. And then you have Wattaquin. Wattaquin is one of those strange female protagonists I've never really seen in a long time. You know, this chick, I like, without going through spoilers, man, I don't know how to feel about this character. She's really well written. She's not your typical female protagonist that's found in JRPGs or in anime and everything, and she's really, really peculiar in a sense, and well written. I'll just leave it at that. But man, overall, man, a lot of the characters in there I really had grown attached to, and I believe that if you actually sit down and play this game, I think you'll feel the same way that I felt about the characters as well. So let's move on to the gameplay, which is what everybody really wants to know. How does the game feel? How does it play? Well, for starters, as I mentioned before, is a real-time strategy RPG, which means it's more strategy based, that happens in real time, where every movement you have to take under consideration, because it's not turn-based. So everything is moving, all the pieces is moving all at once while you're making your commands. I would compare a real-time strategy to the likes of Warcraft or Command and Conquer, or I would say like a MOBA like League of Legends, where you take control of your character, you point on your character, and you give them individual commands. There's nothing that freezes in place, everything is in motion, so you have to think fast on your feet on how do you want to strategize your attacks and your positions. And speaking of positions really play an important role. Now, when you position your characters, if you're position them from behind, you can actually take extra critical damage called ambush that pops up in red words, and that's the really, really important part of this game, is how you position your characters, and each enemy have their own radius of sight of where they can be able to detect you. So you also have missions to where you can decide whether you want to sneak around and not encounter any enemies, or you can just take them head on, because you also score it based on how fast you complete each mission, because you get these different conditions. You can earn skill points if you get treasure boxes that have items in them. There's all type of requirements you can get if you have those requirements done at a certain time, or if you complete the stage without losing any of your party members. Now, when it comes to party formations, you can only have 4 characters on the field at one time, which really caught me by surprise, because most strategy games you have like a bunch of different units, but you have 4 characters. But the only difference is, while having the 4 characters, you have assisted support characters that you attach to your character. So this allows you to be able to combine different stats and abilities from the character that you have assigned to. but you're allowed to swap the characters in and out 3 times per mission. So you can also keep that in mind. Now, what makes this combat in a way kind of unique is the fact is that when it comes to your equipment, because the equipment system is totally different than what I'm used to. So when it comes to your equipment has different skills attached to them. Now, this took some time to get used to. When you have these different type of characters, which is also based on their class, because there is a class system, which is 5 different classes, I believe it was. You have your Cavalier, you have your pretty much your DPS class, you have your Archer class, you have your pretty much, I guess you say your Dragon Rider, but your Dragon Rider is actually your Cavalier. And then you have, of course, you have your Berserker, which uses axe based, and then you have your mages. So each weapon has abilities attached to them. So the thing I didn't know was when you swap out that weapon and put another weapon on, you lose those abilities. So I was saying to myself, what happened to my healing abilities that I had with one of my mages? And then come to find out that no, the abilities are attached to your weapons. So now you have to take under consideration which weapons is suited for your character. Now, speaking of weapons, you have to develop weapons, and this goes hand in hand in how you want to create builds for your different characters and everything. So essentially what happens is, as you progress through the game, you'll be able to develop different weapons. As you develop the different weapons, these weapons appear in the item shop. When you go to the item shop, you'll be able to purchase these weapons. Once you purchase the weapons, you can check to see all the abilities that comes with the characters or comes with the weapons itself, and that's how you can make your decisions based on what abilities are on those weapons. Now, some weapons may not have the desirable abilities that you want, but to complement or to fill in the things that you mentioned, you pair that character with another character who may have that weapon with the abilities that you need. So for instance, I have one mage who uses a lot of healing abilities. So in order for me to keep those healing abilities, I constantly use and find wands that have those healing abilities on it, but I attach another mage to that mage that have all the other abilities that mage is lacking. So I have a lot of my dark magic and everything like that. So you see where I'm going with this. So then you have your tank classes the same way. You can put a lot of DPS skills by attaching a DPS type class onto your paladin type class in order to cover those other fronts right there, which is pretty unique. So the thing is, you can level up your skills, because the skills, there's also a skill tree that you can use SP to level up the skills to make those skills much more powerful. This is where the game can pretty much get busted if you realize what skills are good, especially early on in the game. Assassination is just crazy with Adrius. Adrius is hit out, man. It's a chef's kiss, man. I love assassination. It gets the job done. But yes, there's really a lot of like intricacies when it comes to the development and everything. Now, unlike most JRPGs, when it comes to tactical and most strategy RPGs, you really don't take control over your character. When I'm talking about like when it comes to traveling, when it's going to villages or exploring dungeons, there's no dungeon exploring. There's no going to different villages. You just have a base of operations. This is where you take control over your main character to where you can be able to pick up missions, quests, and everything like that, and formulate different relationships to understand, to get more backstory for particular characters, and to also put more money in investments in order to invest in more weapons, more items, and also invest in also increasing your summons. You're able to get summons in the game that you can be able to utilize, use points towards, but you also need to unlock that by exactly doing quests and also just enhancing and just putting more into your base of operations, where you start to get an extra floor, be able to access more quests. And you have to do these quests if you want to get other characters as well, because I believe you can miss characters if you don't frequently check in on the quest board or check in to see what new NPC or new character has stepped into your base of operations. So there's a lot that you can work with right there, and this is where you're going to get most of your side stories from, is when you go to the quest board to pick up many different quests and be able to get a chance to get more fleshed out backstories on the characters itself. Now you also have character abilities where you can use your SP points to be able to pretty much get passive abilities that you could put on your characters during battle and everything, which I think is pretty cool. And not just that, I think that when it comes to this game, you really have to get an understanding of that strategy RPGs are a different beast from action RPGs or your typical turn-based. And I think the satisfying part about strategy RPGs is that you're always thinking ahead. Your brain is always constantly moving because there's so many different pieces on the board that's just moving at once. So you always got to think ahead. And the thing about it is too, when enemies attack, they have special abilities that cover certain areas, that cover a radius, and then you have special abilities that can actually knock out and stop a particular enemy from performing that attack, which I think is also pretty cool. Now, as far as cons are concerned with this game, and it's not really many at all, I would say. The game, I think the major thing for me, it can be quite grindy because the game is only 20 to 25 hours long. You can beat it within 25 hours. The game is grindy in the sense to where getting money in this game is really, really rough because weapons are super expensive. So it encourages you and it forces you to grind out the same missions and grind out the same quests over and over again to get the money that you need in order to upgrade your characters and upgrade your skills, because they're very stingy with SP. So you have to constantly keep going back in order to get the SP that you need when you leveling up your characters, and you have to play new missions in order to get SP. So you can't keep rerunning the same missions in order to get SP. You have to constantly progress through the game to get the SP that you need. So I would say that weapons are very expensive, and there's not really much music selection in this. It's like most battles have the same track or the same 2 tracks that just, you know, swap back and forth depending on what mission that you're on. So I wish there was a bit more music variety, but other than that, man, I really enjoyed every bit of Diofield Chronicles. And in my personal opinion, I suggest that you give it a try. I would give this game an 8. I loved it. I loved every bit of it because I come from a strategy RPG background. All I do is play RPGs, strategy RPGs, but they did fit in the sense that this game is really easy. Even on normal, it's easy, and I believe that this game is designed in a way to pretty much make it an entry level to people who never heard or never played a real-time strategy game before. So if you're looking to try this game out, play the demo first, but the demo really doesn't give you the full gist of how the game actually plays, and it doesn't introduce you to the many different mechanics that it throws at you as you progress through the story and its chapters and everything. But I really enjoyed it. So yes, I give Diofield Chronicles an 8, and I would say this: expect another video where I actually want to do an overview of the actual game so you can see hands-on of how the game plays and how it works. And I definitely want to do a video talking about the overall experience with the game story, because I really love the story and its characters and that ending, my God. So if you're interested in wanting to just be curious and don't care about being spoiled, definitely check out that video when I work on that. So that wraps up this video. If you enjoyed this review, definitely let me know in the comment sections below. If you played Diofield Chronicles, let me know, how do you feel about the game? Do you think what would you rate the game? I'm definitely curious about how you perceive this game, because I think this game is definitely an underrated gem. I think this is going to be a game that's going to be very well overlooked because of from the surface level of how the game looks, but this game really deserves a try. You definitely need to try it out. So if you like the video, make sure you hit that like button, because it helps me out here on YouTube and the algorithm. You don't understand how much that means to me. I appreciate the feedback that you guys have been leaving, and I'm seeing just tremendous growth here on this channel. So I wrap this up. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.